Okay, we're good.
I'm sorry,
Yay.
this is your captioner.
Yep, I'm getting you right there just now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure, Michelle.
Okay, captioner, are you ready?
No, I just have my link. I just need a minute to put it where I need it, please.
Sure. Just holler when you are.
All set, thank you.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 17th. It is just a couple of minutes past 1 here, and we are live on a digital platform. Present currently, we have myself, Randy Allison, and Eric Biter from the Finance Committee, as well as Bonnie Katz from the Full Body of City Council. From the Treasurer's Office, we have Kevin Mackey. From the City Clerk's Office, we have Janice Frank. I see Chief Onks from the Fire Department, Molly Steele Shrimp from HR, and we should be joined here shortly. Oh, Chris Black from IT, who will be making an appearance today at the meeting, and we should be joined shortly by the mayor. We do have, pardon me here, 7 items on our agenda today. However, item number 1 has been postponed until January 31st because the head of our finance department is not in the office today and consequently couldn't present the update on the audit. We'll begin then with item number 2, an ordinance amending Article 15110B of the codified ordinances. Ms. Steele Shrimp?
Thank you. So the officers and employees pension is the pension that all of the employees have except for fire and police. As you know, River Valley Transit separated from the city as of July 1. There were 2 participants on the pension board currently, or there are currently. So those are active employees who are contributing to the pension. And then there is 1 retired pensioner who is a member of the board as well. One of the 2 previous active participating board members is an RVTA employee. So a request was made by someone who was attending one of the meetings that we replace that RVTA employee with an active city employee. They would like to keep that RVTA employee on the board because he is representing RVT pensioners. So any RVT employee who retired when RVT was with the city will stay on the city's retirement plan. So he is representing them and will continue to do so, or someone else from RVTA. So the request is to change it from 2 active participants to 3 active participants. And then we would open it up for nominations for someone to replace, be placed in that seat on the board then, if that were to be granted. That's all I got.
Okay. So just to be clear, Molly, when you say active, so you said that there was 1 retired pension receiving employee on the board, 1 active member from the city, 1 active member from RVTA.
Right.
The difference then between active and inactive is whether or not the person is currently employed.
Correct.
Do all the members receive a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be then 4 voting members with the potential for a 5th voting member if we were to have a director of administration?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and there's no concern about the 4 voting members element, correct?
Oh, you
A
mean
split
as far as
decision.
it being uneven? That's a good question.
Well, as far as it being even, rather.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, we hadn't thought of that. I don't know if based on, I don't have past experience to know how many people would run for this seat. So I don't know if we'll struggle to find somebody to fill this seat, much less 2 seats.
Or I guess if the director of administration, if there isn't a director of administration, you removed that person from their, you say that the person will simply be unrepresented, but perhaps we should insert some sort of language about the mayor breaking the tie and if there were to be a tie vote for some reason.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Just trying to think of, I to the best of my knowledge, there's never been anything particularly contested at a pension meeting, but it would be a shame not to have a manner to resolve it if something arose.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. We hadn't thought of that.
Okay. And excuse me there, I kind of trumped in. Other members of the finance committee, what are your thoughts on the language making the mayor the tiebreaker versus designating someone else? And in general on the change to the structure?
I think actually, now that I think about it, I believe the mayor is a voting member because he's the chair.
Okay.
Currently the only, I don't know if this makes sense, but I am the recording secretary as Joe Pavlak was. And I don't know if it could be that the recording secretary could be the tiebreaker because currently I don't have voting rights.
Well, if the mayor is casting a vote, then you've got 5.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, anyway, why don't you guys look it over by Thursday?
Okay,
Figure out if there would be a situation in which we could potentially have a tied vote and try to change the language to alleviate that, right?
okay, yep.
Yeah, I mean, because, the other thing would be, I suppose, it would seem perhaps a little bit amiss to have both the mayor and the director of administration be voting members separately. Because it seems like it would give the administration maybe a bit more weight than we would want on a pension board.
Okay,
But that once again, those are kind of nuts and bolts things that I'm not super attached to. Just trying to think if we want to make any further changes, as long as we're opening it up to make this change.
okay, yep, good thought.
Okay. Got it. Randy, Eric, what do you think?
I like the idea of thinking it over and crunching the numbers and all of that. I think it's kind of hard to adjust it right now on the fly. So I'd rather they take a little bit of time to decipher what might be the best mix.
We could wait until the next council meeting. Honestly, it doesn't need to go this Thursday. I don't know if that's an option.
I think you just have to discuss that with Council President Yoder and make sure, the administration, I believe, could pull it from the agenda if they wanted to. They could also, we could table it in council. I mean, you can also work on some language between now and Thursday. Doesn't have to be a serious, a great big huge deal. But I agree with Randy that clearly we should think the repercussions of adding an additional member through before we move on it. So if you feel you won't be able to conclude those deliberations before Thursday, then just, pull it off the agenda or ask us to table it when it comes up on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, but as long as we're discussing it, anybody have any other points to make that might?
The question that I would have, Molly, is if we add this new member, would we at some point then want to take the RVT employee then off and remove a member of the board once we do not have that obligation of a pension for former RVT employees? Now,
Yes.
Obviously, that's a ways down the road, I would assume.
Yes, that would make sense to me at that point to remove that person from the board. And I guess that's another good point. Do we drop it back down to only 2 participating members at that time?
Yeah, and I guess that is also language that could automatically trigger that. There's language we could insert that would automatically trigger that change.
Okay.
Versus, how many pensioners do we have? How many?
Oh gosh.
How many retired people? Yeah.
Maybe 10.
Oh, really? That few?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I assumed there was a larger group of people than that. Okay. Well, yeah, that does seem, because the city, between active and retired employees, how many people do we have in the pension plan?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. I would say, I think there's around 100 total in the office.
Okay.
Employees.
I guess that's not a terrible inequity then. It does seem, if we were looking to represent the interests of the people covered by the pensions, I'm not sure that 1 seat out of 4 would go to someone from RV, you know what I mean? We have 10 pension folks from RVT versus 100 plus from the city. But if, you know, if that seems to be the most equitable, then I think that's fine. But I would agree with Eric then that obviously that seat should sunset, or should be transferred to a city employee when we no longer have RVT folks in the pension plan.
Okay. We'll work on that too. Thank you. Good ideas.
Okay. Randy or Eric, anything else?
Liz, can I,
Sure.
Adam is not going to be at the meeting Thursday. I'll be handling the meeting. And from what I'm saying, listening to, maybe Molly does want to pull this from the agenda.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some discussions we'll need to have.
You rather have the discussion with the full body of council?
I mean, amongst the pension board members, and I would run it by Austin White. Any changes we would want him to look at. I'm not sure how quickly he would be able to.
So then we can take this off the agenda for Thursday then?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll take it off.
I think, Bonnie, doesn't the administration have to pull it? Because they
I-
generated the agenda. I'm not sure that we can remove items. I could be wrong. I'm just putting that out there.
Janice, are you on? Janice? I guess
thought
she's
that
not
she
on.
wasn't here. Oops, well, we better make that correction to the rule. Sorry, Janice.
I think you're right, Liz.
It
Yeah,
is
I think you're right, Liz.
I'm pretty sure that the administration has to make the choice to pull it at this point.
They
Bonnie.
they would request of the
Yeah.
of count. They would request council to pull it. Request the
Yeah, like you would have to
president.
give your consent basically, but I think they initiate the request. So it sounds like Molly's initiating the request.
Okay. And since yeah, so Bonnie in sitting in lieu of the president being there as vice president could do that.
I can get in touch with the mayor tomorrow. Is he going to be in tomorrow?
Yes,
I guess
my
he
knowledge.
will be. I don't know if is he going to be in the office
Hey,
tomorrow?
Bonnie, the mayor should be on this call a little bit later.
Oh, okay, then we can
He
ask
said
him that.
he's got an item on the agenda later. Yeah, so we should be able to deal with that then.
Okay. And if
Okay.
he does, then I'll make sure that's pulled.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't see him. I see that Assistant Chief Bolt. I see a couple of extra folks added, but I don't see the mayor on yet. So, okay.
Who's on
All
the
right.
phone with who's the phone number for, Chris?
I think that's probably Peg Woodring. The mayor's, sorry guys, the mayor's not in City Hall, so that wouldn't be him because that's a trunk line number.
Right, oh, that's right, I can see that, okay.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on from item number 2,
Thank you.
and we can revisit it, Bonnie, when the mayor chimes in. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. Item number 3, an ordinance revising a fee or creating a fee schedule, I guess, for the treasurer's office. Mr. Mackey.
Hello. So as of my knowledge, we have only 2 or 3 fees that are actually on here right now that we can go ahead and enforce. The certifications and the bill fees, and then the NSF fees. We have the license set up as part of the stuff that was sent up in 2017 and amended in 2019 when Nick took everything over here. But I need a few more in here to help allow us to enforce certain things a little better and cover the cost of trying to do these enforcements. So what I have created here is based on other information from local tax offices and stuff from across Pennsylvania. Some of these that I've talked with directly, where we're going ahead and allowing these fees to be implemented to encourage businesses to follow the rules that we've set out in the rules and regulations.
Understood. Hence the person who is operating as a business without having filed as a business with the city being a slightly higher fee, correct?
Correct. So we have the failure to acquire the MVP license. So if they've been in the business, been in the area for multiple years, and they just pay the license fee, it's $10. However, it shouldn't just be, well, you haven't had a license fee for this many years, we're just going to go ahead and accept for $10. No, like, it's an enforcement action. It's not fair to everyone else that they pay if they're at the appropriate time and you're coming in late. So this is an effort to encourage people to pay on time and with haste on the April 15th filing date rather than waiting 3 years to go ahead and file. I have several businesses and quite a long list of things that have not been paid in several years that I'm going out to and having to reach individually out for to get them to come in and follow this tax.
Understood. I think that makes sense. Randy and Eric, what are your thoughts on this fee schedule? Anything you don't see here that you'd like to, etc.?
I don't envision anything else that could be added, but I do like the incentive for people to not be lax about filing or, putting it off. So just to be clear, none of the fees that were already in there are being raised. You're just adding new ones. Is that correct?
There is one fee that is being changed on here, and that is the NSF fee. And this is to follow in step with the rest of the industry that is lowering the NSF fees. A lot of banks have had a $35 fee, and they've been dropping it to $12.50 or $15 appropriately.
Okay.
And this is done as not punishment towards the people that have no money. This is done as the inconvenience and the cost of covering for having to send out the letter to get somebody to come in. So I'm not trying to use an NSF fee as a fee generation. I'm just trying to use it to cover our efforts to collect on a tax that should have been paid the first time around.
Correct.
And that's something that more happens with the real estate, our local residents, than it happens with our businesses.
Okay.
That's actually been lowered about $20. So I'm hoping that's appreciated by some people.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wondered. Thank you.
No, I think that's an excellent point, Kevin. There's no point to penalizing someone who can't afford to make the payment, or who doesn't have sufficient funds in their account as they might have expected. That is a silly thing to try and game somebody on. So, but other than that, none of the fees have gone up.
No, most of these are new fees entirely, and they're either directed towards the MVP tax to cover non-filers, people that aren't going ahead and following the rules and regulations that we set out and that we make reminders for biannually, and they send in stuff that's incomplete. And that's been the big one that we've had to send out. I think we've sent out at least a few hundred notices for businesses that haven't sent in a complete filing form. And as a business owner, you understand that it's not fair to have someone's stuff scrutinized because they sent stuff in, and for someone else's stuff not to be because we're waiting on their information, or they don't send it in at all.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's clearly completely just. Even though I'm probably, fortunately I have an accountant, but if otherwise, Kevin, I would totally be the person sending in the inaccurate forms.
I'm not naming any names here. I'm doing the best I can.
But I still think it's good for you to look out for those people who remember to dot their I's and cross their T's.
This is why I have the thing in there about the waiver if they have a extension filed. They're not be assessed if they go ahead and file the rules. They still need to make a payment by April 15th. That one I can't get away, but I don't have to hit them with an incomplete filing fee as long as they provide that extension.
Got it. Okay. All right. Eric, do you have any thoughts on these items?
I do not. I just like to see that Mr. Mackey's being proactive about this.
Yeah, well, I think we all appreciate that, Kevin. And I'm glad that we have something that is publicly available and visible, you know what I mean, and kind of an open and transparent process for it.
Since we voted on Thursday, I'm going to ask Chris to put this on the website too, so it's readily available for this season.
Good, fantastic. That'd be excellent. All right, then it sounds as though we can move on to item number 4, which you've already started to address, the resolution relating to the property tax penalty waiver provisions.
Correct.
Kevin?
On July 11th, Governor Wolf signed this, and it was supposed to take effect October 10th in 2022. We didn't have anything going out into that time period, and we didn't have anything that followed this instance, but this is something that needed to be enacted locally as well. This is just provisions for waiving penalty. And for the most portion, people need to follow 5 steps. And we're going to have a copy of the form in our office if people ever need to look at it as well. And we'll probably have this uploaded online once this is enacted as well. If this is mainly directed towards property owners that are buying and selling their property, the tax notice goes out and they haven't received it because they were in the process of moving or it wasn't forwarded onto their address. A lot of this stuff we asked our mailings to be forwarded to, so people usually get their duplicates unless they haven't notified the post office of their address change.
But if they provide some sort of justification, this helps them with the.
Correct. So
Yeah.
there's like 4 or 5 things that they need to do. A copy of the deed showing the date of property transfer, or if it's mobile or manufactured homes, they have to show the extended lease agreement or something along those lines that we can look at and say, okay, yes, this makes sense. This is why you didn't get it. And then they have to bring in a check when they fill this form out for the face value of the duplicate. If they don't have those things, then we cannot waive the penalty.
Got it. Okay, then Randy and Eric, any thoughts on this? It seems like a sensible move to me.
I have nothing.
Yeah, yeah, it's just specific to houses being or property being sold.
Correct.
Yeah, at first when I just took a cursory reading through it, that didn't strike me in the beginning, but then as I took time to read through it, it made more sense. So, yep, no, I'm good with it.
Took me a few times to read it too to fully understand it too, but that's government for you.
Well, yeah. But I just briefly went through and I saw that under the waiver, Part B, attest that a tax notice was not received. I'm like, well, is that a legal term? I mean, that didn't sound like, it sounded like you could just say, yeah, I didn't get it. And then they get the waiver. But
this is the stuff that Harrisburg put out. This is the wording that they use on this.
Right.
Use this as part of our tax code.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of ambiguous.
There.
And we'll see how it gets interpreted in court, I'm sure, at some point by someone somewhere that will challenge them not, if they don't get the waiver, they'll have a challenge to it. But okay, I'm fine,
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing is the one thing that we could change is what's contained in our resolution, correct, Kevin?
Correct.
We could change it to reflect, to say something at least along the lines of, in the case of transfer of real estate or something like that.
Correct. Because that's really only when this applies, it is when real estate's being transferred. Other
Right.
than
Well,
that,
yes.
if they're not paying the homes, they still have to go ahead and pay it at the appropriate time.
right?
Yeah. So I guess to Randy's point, right, all of us sort of initially read this as like you could apply to have fees waived if you neglected to pay your taxes on time or something like that, right? Not that that's a terrible thing, but that is not what we intend. It's
Correct.
only if you can attest that you didn't receive the bill because you were, because the real estate was being transferred at the time of billing in some way. So maybe at least in our resolution, we should include that piece of information to give ourselves potentially slightly more protection. If the rest of the language is boilerplate, if the language, given to us by the state is boilerplate, at least, we could try and make it clear through our resolution that our intent was to that it's only in those circumstances. Is that what you're getting at, Randy? That you think it'll be
Well,
challenged by
yeah.
someone?
Actually, that's a good point, Liz, because the second clause in the resolution is what initially I focused on, and the last part of the sentence says, directing the tax collector to waive additional charges for real estate taxes in certain situations.
Right.
And that sounds like a wide open phrase that could be
Right.
taken a lot of different causes, or I don't know. So maybe if we added that, that would beef it up a little bit or focus it better.
Yeah, something like in certain situations involving the transfer of property or something.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. Think about it, Kevin, for Thursday, and we could amend it if you can think of a phrase that seems like it would
I don't
help
see
clarify
issues
without
labeling the property transfer.
What's that?
I don't
Okay.
see issues labeling and property transfers. That's the only when it'll apply.
Okay. So we'll say to waive additional charges for real estate taxes in certain situations involving property transfer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Then at least that gives you something to point to when somebody comes in and says they didn't receive their tax bill when they've lived there for 20 years or something like that, right? Well, did you transfer the property? Then, right. Then why don't we bear that in mind as an amendment for Thursday? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else that we wanted to observe about this item?
Not I.
Okay, hearing nothing. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, and actually here, hang on. Has the mayor joined us yet?
Yes, yes, Councilwoman, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Derek. How you doing? All right.
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I hope the inauguration was fun. All right. Okay. You're covering then item number 5, a resolution to approve the 2022 James David Robinson Cultural Arts Grant Program and associated awards.
Yes.
Okay. What do you want to tell us?
Yeah, well, you have. All right. Good afternoon, Councilwoman Mealy, members of the Finance Committee. We have before you a resolution for the James David Robinson Cultural Arts Grant. As you know, that's a requirement per the settlement from a number of years ago at this point. And this year we had, 2022 now, but we had 3 submissions: the Community Arts Center, the Symphony Orchestra, and the Community Arts Center was the other one.
Repass.
It's the repass band. Thank you, Randy. My apologies. Yeah, the repass band. And it's $3,000, and this year it was $1,000. What we decided to do for each of those organizations. Pretty straightforward what we've done in the past. There were not any other organizations that submitted. It was only those 3, which is why we decided to go with 1,000. That's
And
all I have.
everyone requested 1,000, Derek, or I mean, were all the requests?
No, they each. So I don't have it in front of me right at the moment. There was one that requested 1,500. I believe it was the Symphony Orchestra. The other 2 requested 1,000.
Okay. Yeah, then I suppose that they will make do.
I spoke to them. They were appreciative with anything. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Okay. This has been a pretty static. The organizations we've been awarding to have been static for a number of years. I'm assuming, given the limited amount of funding, that we don't publicize it too much. But have we gotten any applications from anyone else recently?
Yeah, this year we did not, but before we've received stuff from Bald Eagle Arts Association, I believe it's called. Newberry Community Partnership, I believe, has submitted in the past. I believe there are a few others. I actually went back and looked, and I don't remember off the top of my head. I know Bald Eagle Arts has, Symphony Newberry Community Partnership has, but yeah, I think given the that it's only $3,000. I shouldn't say only, I mean, people are obviously grateful, but that it's not a large award, we don't get more, but we publicize it, we do put it out there when the application is available to submit. But yeah, it does, to your point, it does seem to be the same 3 to 5 organizations each year.
I mean, and I guess presumably at this point they count on it for some portion of their annual funding, so that's probably a good thing. But still, I feel like there used to be a broader catch, but I think it's been the same amount of money, and that amount of money is now less, because of inflation than it was back when we started this process. So there's that. Anyway,
yeah,
Randy,
that amount I believe was. I was just going to say, I'm sorry. I think that amount was set as part of the settlement at the time.
It was.
It was. But we had this award. We had this grant process before before it became the James David Robinson grant, and it was, I believe, it was almost $3,000. So it's been there for as long as I've been on council. But yeah,
Okay.
so which is so like 12. Too long. What, Randy? 12, 13 years now? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been the same amount of money. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Randy or Eric, do you have any other thoughts on this?
I don't.
All right. If hearing
Neither do I.
Got it. All right, then I think we can probably move on there. That's I'm glad to see us taking care of this and getting to it early in January, which is good.
Yep.
Okay.
All
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Yep.
Thanks.
Thank-
Then the final item on our agenda, aside from any related items, is item number 6, a resolution authorizing the purchase of Manage Engine mobile device management service from Zoho Core. All right, that's a mouthful, Chris. What can you tell us?
I just call it MDM. But yeah, this is a upgraded product for what we've been using. We've been using this since I started here. The first 25 devices we attached to it are free, which we reached about mid-November. At that point, we need to start paying for the service, which is very reasonable. The original quote that I got for a total of 50 devices was $1,428, which is what I did put into the budget. And has since then been able to get it down to where it's $1,195 per year. This software allows us to control what apps get installed onto the phones. If the phone gets lost, we can lock it. We can make sure that no one else can get into it, which is particularly important with, anybody working with the police department or what have you, that they know that their phone is secured at that point. It's really easy to use. I like it compared to some of the others I've had to use. This was reviewed by Austin White, and that's it.
Okay. So you're saying we've been utilizing this software for a while now, only a year, or we've used it for longer than that?
When I came on, we were just moving over to it.
Okay.
So 15 months, what have you. And like I said, the first 25 that you use are free. They don't charge you for it.
Okay.
But now that I've got units 26, 27, and 28 to add to it, as Chief Sam would attest to that, we need to purchase the real version of it now. So.
Got it. And there's no financial benefit to waiting to add all 50, right? If we're only up to 28.
Right. This is the next break point. And I know the way that we add phones, I don't want to come back to you every other month just to renew and re-up it. So.
Got it. Okay.
And this will also allow me to move off of an older piece of software that we've been using before I got here, which we have about another 15 phones over there that I can migrate from it. So we're only paying one bill for them as opposed to paying 2 separate bills for 2 different sets of phones.
Got it. Okay. And so this charge does not include, obviously, Wi-Fi fees, anything like that. This is purely for the ability to lock the phone remotely if it's lost.
To
The other-
manage them, yes. To
Okay.
remotely manage the phones, yes.
Got it. Okay. Randy and Eric?
I don't have any questions. It's just, it's a function of technology these days that we need to be able to manage everything, because phones are just like computers that people carry around, so.
I would agree.
We have a lot of information on these things.
Of a
A
lot.
terrifying amount.
Yes.
Especially, like when the police department is using it for some of the investigations that they're doing and so forth, we need to keep it encrypted and be able to lock it down in case it's lost. And it's
Right.
just pennies in the long run, really.
Okay. All right, then hearing no other questions, I guess we'll see you on Thursday about this item too, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any related items to introduce in today's meeting? Hearing nothing else, Derek, are you still Derek still here, guys, or did he take off?
Yeah, the mayor did leave.
Okay. All right. Then Bonnie, you're gonna have to touch base with Derek later about that item. Pulling that item from the agenda. I apologize. I should have caught him while he was here.
Okay, I will talk to him tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Okay, then hearing no other related items, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I guess I can second.
I'll second that. Sorry, I couldn't get myself
Excellent.
unmuted.
That's fine. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Okay, great. I will see you guys on Thursday evening. Thanks a lot.
Okay. See everyone then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.